Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be ranking every single goalie tandem in the NHL. The trade deadline's in only 1 week, and I wanted to take a little bit of a break away from that because there's going to be a lot of deadline content coming out. So I have this series going, and I've already done the forwards, and now it's the goalie's turn. And starting off at number 32 with the worst goalie tandem in the league, I have the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken right now have Philip Grubauer and Chris Driedger as their goalies. Both goalies have had very not good seasons. Philip Grubauer is letting in so many goals that he should be saving. His goals saved above expected is one of the worst in the league. And Driedger just hasn't been very good either, but I feel like Driedger hasn't got as much of a chance to really redeem himself yet. But Grubauer has just had a horrific season, and this tandem has not been good. And the ironic part about this tandem not being very good is that before the season, when I ranked all the goalie tandems, because I have done this before, go check it out if you want to. But I had Seattle at number 1. I'm like, they got Philip Grubauer, Chris Driedger. Both these guys have been amazing. This is going to be great. And they have been the exact opposite. So it's kind of funny to see that I had them at 1, and now they're at 32. But moving on to number 31. And at number 31, I have the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils right now have a goalie tandem of Mackenzie Blackwood and John Gillies. Obviously, I know Nico Dawes has played up there, but I went with the goalies who have played the two goalies who have played the most games on any given team. And for New Jersey, that's Mackenzie Blackwood and John Gillies. Mackenzie Blackwood, you're really hoping he'd have that bounce back season. He hasn't, and I don't know if he ever will really reach what he was supposed to be or do what he was supposed to do a few years ago. And then John Gillies, he's fine, but I don't think he should be a backup goaltender. And New Jersey, their goaltending is definitely part of the reason that they fail to win some games. Next year in the offseason, they definitely got to figure this out, because if they don't, I don't see them making the playoffs. But now moving on to number 30. And at number 30, I have the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens not having a great season, and their goaltending tandem is also not very good. It does have to do with the fact that Price has been out, and that's basically what it has to do with. But Montreal right now, starting goalie who's played the most games for them is actually Sam Montembeault, with backup being Jake Allen, who would be the starter if he played more games. But Sam Montembeault, he's been okay, very not consistent. One game he'll be great, next game he won't be. It's just like one game he'll let in like 5 goals on 7 shots, and one game he'll get a shutout on 40. You never know with him, and it all balances out to an 897, which is below average. And then you have Jake Allen, who was playing pretty solid. You know, he wasn't doing great, not bad, but considering how bad Montreal was, nobody really blamed them at all. But this goaltending tandem, obviously one of the bottom in the league. But now moving on to number 29, and this is a goaltending tandem that at the start of the season I would have had much higher, and I did have much higher. But as the season's gone along, they have dropped quite a bit, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings right now, starting goalie is Alec Nedeljkovic and backup Thomas Greiss. Nedeljkovic's numbers throughout the season have gone down, man. They were so good, and lately they've completely fallen. He's now at a 901, and he used to be at like a 920. And Thomas Greiss is not having a great season. And their goaltending has really been the cause of a lot of losses lately. So Nedeljkovic, I'm hoping he bounces back pretty soon here, maybe next season. And they got their young goalie, Sebastian Cossa, coming up, so that'll help eventually. But as for right now, Thomas Greiss and Nedeljkovic definitely are not having very good seasons. But now number 28, and that is my favorite team, the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton Oilers have a goaltending tandem of Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. This goaltending tandem is simply just not good enough for a playoff team as well. Like, this team is going to be in the playoffs, and right now this is their tandem. Mikko Koskinen has been fine. He has a 906. He's been okay. You know, he's been like Mikko Koskinen, about as expected. And Mike Smith has been not good this season. Mike Smith has earned his way to a backup position where he was the starter at the start of the season, got hurt, came back, and he just has been horrible. I'd rather have Stuart Skinner up instead of him, I'm not going to lie. But this tandem, they need to figure something out at the trade deadline, or figure something out soon here if they really want to go far in the playoffs, because I just don't see it with this goalie tandem. But now moving on to number 27. And at 27, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus Blue Jackets goalies right now are Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo. Merzlikins has been having a below average year by his standards. He obviously got that big contract last year, and he just hasn't quite lived up to it. And then Jonas Korpisalo, man, why? He's the most overrated goalie in the league. He shouldn't even, I don't even think he's good enough to be an NHL backup. And yet people are like, why would you trade for him? Why? Like, Edmonton rumors of trading for Korpisalo, why would you trade for him? I honestly have no idea. But this goalie tandem, it's fine. I think you got to replace Korpisalo, and you can get another goalie in there to play the 1B role with Merzlikins, who's having a rough season. And there you go. But this season, it hasn't been great. Moving on to number 26. And I have the Chicago Blackhawks. The Chicago Blackhawks goaltending tandem right now is Marc-Andre Fleury and Kevin Lankinen. Marc-Andre Fleury, he had a horrible start. He's been better since, and it's probably going to get them something at the trade deadline. And Lankinen, after having a pretty good rookie season last year, has just not followed it up very well. And this season, he's put up poor numbers, and the difference between Fleury and Lankinen really shows. And I just think that Blackhawks need to get a younger, good goalie, draft a younger, good goalie to be better in the future, because Lankinen needs to bounce back and show that he's capable of being at least somewhat of a fringe starter next season. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Now moving on to number 25. And at 25, I have another playoff team, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights, whose goalies are Robin Lehner and Laurent Brossoit. Headed into the season, I really like this tandem. Lehner obviously had maybe a minor down year in Vegas the prior year, and this year it just has not worked out very well. And Brossoit, he's not been as good as he was last year in Winnipeg either. So these two goalies, both underperforming. At the start of the season, I had them at like 10th or something, but they've really dropped, and it shows with their numbers, with Robin Lehner only having a 909 and Laurent Brossoit only an 899. And this has definitely been part of the reason that they're losing some games that they normally would have won. Imagine they had Fleury right now. Like, Fleury would have helped them win more games, and they probably could have been pushing for a playoff spot, but Leonard's goaltending has just not been as great as you'd hope, as well as many other things going wrong in Vegas, but goaltending is definitely contributing to their lack of success right now. But moving on to number 24, and this is a team that's much higher than I thought they would be, which is kind of sad for 24, but it's the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres right now have Craig Anderson and Dustin Tokarski as their goalies, and really, I didn't think they would be good at all. They're a 42-year-old goalie, and Tokarski, who hasn't really proven himself at the NHL level. Well, I can definitely say Tokarski has proven himself, and I can definitely say Anderson looks like he's not quite 42. Not as good as his peak, but definitely not like a 50-year-old player or something. But both these guys have been capable goalies for Buffalo, and especially considering where Buffalo is in the standings, they have been pretty solid overall. But now to number 23. Now 23, I have Toronto. Toronto has dropped a ton with Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek not having great seasons. And the thing is, Jack Campbell had such a good first half. He had like a 940, and he's dropped all the way to a 914. And 914 isn't bad, but it's how he got there that's concerning. And if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't know if you run with him into the playoffs. Their goaltending has definitely led to even though they're doing very good this season, their goaltending's led to them losing some games that they probably should have won. Peter Mrazek, that contract is no longer looking good. I thought it might have been a little much, but now it looks like it's definitely a little much. And Jack Campbell, he needs to get things going again, especially if they want to go anywhere in the playoffs. Or they're going to have to trade for like Fleury or something, but I think they were like a goalie, just a goalie. They're going to need to figure something out. Now we go on to number 22, and at 22 I have the Arizona Coyotes, another team that I actually had at 30. I had this team at 32nd at the start of the season, and Arizona right now has a goaltending tandem of Karel Vejmelka and Scott Wedgwood. Vejmelka has been very solid, sort of like Montembeault. He's very inconsistent, but the thing is, Vejmelka is a little bit better than Montembeault. So where Montembeault's like this, Vejmelka's like this. You know what I'm saying? And then, oh, that might have been blocked. Like Montembeault, Vejmelka, you know, very inconsistent, but Vejmelka's been very inconsistent. Wedgwood's been pretty good in his time in Arizona, and these goalies have actually been stealing Arizona some games this season. I still do think that they need a legitimate starter, unless maybe Vejmelka can end up being that one day. Maybe this could end up being a solid tandem, and it being as solid as it is, I could definitely see them heading into next season with the same two goalies that they have right now. Now moving on to number 21, and at 21 I have the LA Kings, who have Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson. Jonathan Quick's numbers have dropped a lot, just like Campbell's, but you don't hear about it as much because they're not Toronto, and Campbell's just fallen like an asteroid, just. And then Cal Peterson has had a subpar season, only putting up a 900 after he just got that $5 million extension. So he's getting paid, but not exactly as much, or a little bit more than you want him to for what he's doing for LA right now. He's not even the starter right now, but these are two very capable goalies. There's nothing wrong with this tandem, I don't think. I think it's just pretty solid, middle-of-the-pack tandem, and that's that. Just a very middle-of-the-pack tandem. But now moving on to number 20, and at 20, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers right now have Carter Hart and Martin Jones. Carter Hart has bounced back quite a bit. He has a 911 right now. Basically means his numbers have been pretty solid, and he's on a not good Philadelphia team. So the fact that he has a 911 is kind of impressive, especially after last year's like 877 or something. It was horrible. And then you got Martin Jones, who somehow has a 900 save percentage. This man over the past few years was horrible. And then I'm like, why did you sign him to be with Carter Hart? That's a stupid decision. Turns out, not as bad as I thought it would be. He's been fine though overall. Again, we're at that point where we're just at the middle of the pack, solid tandems. And if Carter Hart can really break through, then next year they could have a legitimate tandem. But now moving on to number 19, and that is the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks were absolutely carried to the spot by their starting goalie, Thatcher Demko, who has had an amazing season. His numbers, I think, should be a little higher if he was on another team. But the thing is, he's on Vancouver, and Vancouver allows a lot of prime chances against and a lot of shots against. Demko manages to find his way to a pretty solid save percentage every year, though. And then you've got their backup, Halak, who has really been disappointing this season. When they signed him in the offseason, it looked like he'd be a capable backup, and he just really hasn't been that. And I know a lot of Vancouver fans want to see Spencer Martin come back up and play because he played very good in his couple games. But as their tandem is right now, I think that it's fine, but they definitely got to find a better backup if they want to have a better goalie tandem. But now on to number 18. At 18, I have the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild goalie tandem is Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen. And I thought this was a very good goalie tandem. You have Cam Talbot, who was at the All-Star game, and Kaapo Kähkönen, who had very good numbers. And then the All-Star game break ended, and we come back. Kaapo Kähkönen doesn't look as good. Cam Talbot has not just letting in a lot of goals that he should be saving. And this tandem definitely has dropped a bit from where they would have been a few weeks ago. I still think that they have what it takes to... I don't think they need to change their goaltending. I think their goaltending will be fine in the playoffs. But one of those two goalies has to figure it out if they want to really make a run. And I do like Kähkönen right now. I think he has been the better of the two goalies overall this season. But yeah, Talbot's numbers have fallen from like a 920 to like a 906 in a short span of time. Now to 17, and at 17 I have the Washington Capitals. The Capitals are running a goalie tandem of Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek. Vitek Vanacek has been very good this season. I almost consider him the starter, even though Samsonov has played more games. Vitek Vanacek's numbers are pretty solid, and Samsonov, not what you'd hope for, considering he's a first-round pick. I don't think he'll ever hit the heights that people would hope he'd reach, or Washington fans would hope that Samsonov would reach. But overall, a very capable tandem. If Vanacek can keep the play that he's putting up recently, then I think he will be the goalie for them in the playoffs. But now moving on to number 16, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg should be much higher on this list, but Connor Hellebuyck has not been very good this season. Connor Hellebuyck only has put up a 908, and that is some of the lowest numbers that he has put up in years. 1 second. Sorry, I just had to pause for a sec. There was sounds in the house and stuff, but yeah, Hellebuyck not having a great season, but Eric Comrie, oddly enough, has had a pretty solid season, having a 920 in his limited amount of games. But this tandem as a whole will be much higher if Connor Hellebuyck could just put up some solid numbers and get back to the old Connor Hellebuyck, because this year he's just looked mediocre, and Connor Hellebuyck should not look mediocre. His mediocre should be like a 915, but man, this guy's so good. I don't know how he's even managing to put up a 908. Maybe it's the defense. I don't watch enough Winnipeg games, but yeah, this tandem, it should be atop of the league, but it's at the middle. But now moving on to number 15, and that is the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks right now are running with Jonathan Bernier and Adin Hill, and both these goalies have been pretty capable. Adin Hill's numbers have gone up over the last few weeks. Bernier, although he started really hot, that's balanced out to about a 916. So he's having a pretty solid overall season. And these are two goalies who are very capable, very solid. Adin Hill, who was playing really good in Arizona last year, he's been solid in San Jose, and I think they've managed to fix their goaltending situation a little bit from whatever they had Martin Jones and Aaron Dell. Yeah, that was rough. So this tandem is definitely an improvement over that, but still not quite one of the best tandems in the league. But now moving on to a tandem that is very similar to the San Jose tandem, actually, numbers-wise. Exactly the same numbers-wise, and that is the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa right now has Anton Forsberg and Matt Murray in net. Matt Murray has a 906, Adin Hill has a 906. Forsberg has a 916, Bernier has a 916. But I ended up picking Ottawa over San Jose because Forsberg has just been fantastic as of recently. His numbers have gone up, and he's been playing so good. And Murray's also gone up, so both of these goalies are on the rise in Ottawa, so that's what sort of gave me the tiebreaker between San Jose and Ottawa. But Ottawa, again, Murray not living up to that $6 million contract, obviously, but his play has been better recently, which is what you like to see. And then you got Forsberg, who they definitely should re-sign. I mean, maybe they trade him out, but really Gustafsson's just looked not good at all. So maybe you just re-sign Anton Forsberg for another year for a couple mil and see how it goes. But now moving on to number what are we at now? 13. And at 13, I have the Anaheim Ducks. Now, this is the start of what I think is like good goalie tandems. And the Anaheim Ducks have John Gibson and Anthony Stolarz. John Gibson this year was playing so good, had such good numbers, and then as of late, his numbers have dropped a lot, actually. He's completely fell off all the way to 906. Meanwhile, Stolarz has continued putting up some pretty solid numbers. Again, a limited amount of starts because you're not going to get a crazy amount when you're starting goalies John Gibson. But again, this tandem, very solid. I think Gibson will dig himself out of the hole that he's sort of put his numbers into, like get his numbers back up a little bit. But yeah, he's definitely on a little bit of a cold streak right now. And on to number 12. And at number 12, I have the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers have Sergei Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight. This was like top 5 tandems last time I did this at the start of the season. And really, Sergei Bobrovsky has completely bounced back. He has like a 9. Let me see. I have it written down right here. Sergei Bobrovsky has a 917. So he's having a very good season, while Spencer Knight is having a 905, which is a bit better than what he had before. Because ever since he's come up from being sent down to the AHL, he's been pretty good. So this tandem right now, I don't think Florida needs to worry about getting a backup goalie at the deadline. If Spencer Knight can continue playing like this, then they'll be fine. And honestly, considering how Spencer Knight played in the playoffs last year, I think he can take over if he needs to. But overall, as a tandem, both goalies are pretty capable. Sergei Bobrovsky obviously having a very good season, and Spencer Knight, he's fine if you put him in, and he's still young. So yeah. But now on to number 10, not 11, number 11, and number 11. I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh Penguins right now is a bit of a surprise. I had them pretty low on my list because with Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith, I did not think this was a very good tandem. And one of my bold predictions to start the season was actually that Casey DeSmith would take over and be the starter. That has been just a little bit wrong, just a little bit, because Tristan Jarry has been fantastic this season and definitely helps get this tandem up to where they are at number 11. Another reason they're all the way up is Casey DeSmith has picked up his play over the last couple games and really shown that he can be a capable backup. So Pittsburgh just outside the top 10, but still a very good tandem. But now into the top 10, and at 10 I have Nashville. Nashville carried by Jussi Saros. Not that David Riddick's bad, he's just a below average backup, but Jussi Saros, although every time people say, oh, he's short, fantastic goalie, always puts up great numbers. Like right now he has a 923, so he's been amazing, and he's definitely like the main reason Nashville's in the playoffs. Cool, Ryan Johansson's having a good year, Matthew Shane's bouncing back. None of that matters if you don't have Jussi Saros in net for Nashville, because man, this man is an absolute legend, and there's a reason that Riddick's played less than 10 games. And that's just because of how good Jussi Saros is. And maybe they don't trust Riddick that much, but he's been fine over the games he's played. But moving on to number 9, and at number 9, I have the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche's goaltending tandem is Darcy Kemper, who they traded for in the offseason, and Pavel Francouz. Both goalies have been very good throughout the whole of the season. Not really, like overall they have good numbers, both over 920, but Darcy Kemper, the way Darcy Kemper got there is not quite as extravagant in that he had a horrible first half of the season, but he's had an amazing second half of the season, so that really makes up for it. And people were at one point asking, like, is Colorado going to need to trade for another goalie after giving up a first for Darcy Kemper? Nope, all that talk's gone away. Darcy Kemper's been good, and I don't think you really need to worry about it. The only question left is Darcy Kemper that goalie who can get Colorado that Stanley Cup? And we'll find out in a few months. And another thing we'll find out in a few months is if the Tampa Bay will win the Stanley Cup, because at number 8, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. What a transition. Tampa Bay's goaltending tandem is once again carried by a goalie. That's sometimes how it is up here, but up at the top, But Vasilevsky having a not great season by his standards, which is still very good overall, a 918, still playing very good. It's just he usually puts up like a 926, so the fact that he's at a 918 is a little lower, but still pretty good. And Elliott's really bounced back from his last few years in Philadelphia, and he has a 912 right now. It probably definitely helps that he's behind Tampa Bay defense and not Flyers defense, so that probably does a little bit of something. But again, this tandem very good, and yeah, if Vasilevsky got hurt, I don't think fans would be too worried if it wasn't long term and they had to see Elliott in for a bit. I don't think anybody would be too panicked about that. But now on to number 7, a team with a goaltending problem, but a good one, and that is the St. Louis Blues, who are trying to choose between Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso. Right now, Ville Husso has been fantastic, about a 928 save percentage this season, and Jordan Binnington's save percentage fell off to very low, and he's worked it back up to a 903. and he's been playing solid recently. So 2 very solid goaltenders right now. And who expected this from Ville Husso? Ville Husso has amazing numbers, and like nobody saw it coming. He had not a great year last year. Some people thought that they should replace their backup goalie in Ville Husso, and they didn't, and it's really paid off for St. Louis. Moving on to number 6, I have the Boston Bruins. And the Boston Bruins right now have Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark as their goalie tandem. And Jeremy Swayman has been absolutely fantastic so far. He has put up great numbers, a .926. So he has been like lately, and he won goalie of the month not long ago. So he has really been very good. And then Linus Ullmark not living up to the $5 million contract, but still being a capable backup to Jeremy Swayman. You'd probably like to see Ullmark doing a bit better, but what you gonna do, right? Even with Linus Ullmark not playing up to expectations, Jeremy Swayman has dragged this tandem and still kept it in like a top 5 range. But now moving on to number 5, and at number 5 I have Dallas. Dallas is a situation where I just think they have 2 very solid goalies, Jake Ottinger, who's played really good, and Braden Holtby, who has really bounced back from where he was last season. Braden Holtby, 2 bad seasons in a row. People were like, this is sort of his last chance. And he's really shown that he is still capable of being a good NHL goalie. And then Jake Ottinger, once again, showing that he will be an amazing NHL goalie because, man, he's saved Dallas a lot of games and is a big reason that they are still in that playoff push right now. In fact, Holtby can be as well. Both of them have been very good. And really, that's what gets them up to number 5. It's not one guy carrying or anything, one good starting goalie, which they have. It's 2 very solid goalies, one being a little bit better than the other one, but still. Now moving on to the top 4, and cracking the top 4 is Calgary. Calgary right now has Jacob Markstrom and Daniel Vladar as their tandem. Markstrom having a fantastic bounce-back season, playing very well, winning Calgary a ton of games, getting an amazing amount of shutouts, and then Vladar being a capable backup and a very good pickup by Calgary in the offseason. And this goalie tandem just been very good. Now moving on to number 3, and at number 3 is the New York Rangers. Now this is what you call a hard carry. Starting goalie, Igor Shesterkin, best goalie in forever. Backup goalie, Gorgiev, not having a great season, but Igor Shesterkin's pretty much .940 save percentage kind of makes up for that, because I would take this tandem any day of the week just for Igor Shesterkin himself. Like, Igor, you could have got rid of Gorgiev and it probably would have actually made this tandem go up. Like, that's how good Shesterkin is. He probably could have won this thing just alone. But man, this is an insane year for Shesterkin. People are having the talk of whether maybe he can even win the Hart Trophy, and when that's going on, you know that they're having a great season, because goalies like very rarely get in the Hart conversation. So, and Shesterkin's managing to still be in it, although his numbers have slid recently. And by that I mean they've gone from like a .940 to a .938, because he's had a couple of subpar games, and by subpar I mean like a .915 save percentage. So yeah, that's where we're at with our Igor Shesterkin in the New York Rangers goaltending tandem. But at number 2 is the other New York team, and that is the Islanders, who have Sorokin and Varlamov, both goalies very solid. The problem with the Islanders is that they don't score, and no matter how good goaltending you're getting, if you don't score, you don't win games. So, but their goaltending has been very good. Sorokin really, I wouldn't say breaking out because he was very good last season, but having another good season. And Varlamov, he's been okay. He's bounced back from a bit of a slow start. And overall, this tandem is just a very good tandem. And all the Islanders need to figure out now is how to score. So, yeah. But at number 1, a team that does know how to score, and a team that knows how to defend, and obviously a team that knows how to play goalie or get goalies, and that is Carolina. And it's funny to see him at number 1 because I had him in like the middle towards the bottom of my list last time. I was really disappointed with what they did in the offseason, getting Frederik Andersen at $4 million. What a horrible contract, I said to myself. What a steal of a contract that is now. And then we got Antti Raanta, $2 million. I thought that was fine, but the whole like Freddie Andersen thing was crazy risky, and man, it has really paid off for Carolina, because Frederik Andersen has been fantastic, and Raanta has also been very good. They're the only team, when I do my rankings, I put like ratings beside each one, and this team is the only one that really achieved like a 5 out of 5, because both goalies have been fantastic, and yeah, that's really what they did to get number 1, is just be amazing. So thank you guys for watching, if you are still here. This has been a bit of a longer video. Obviously, I was just ranking every single goalie tandem in the NHL, but I'm done now. And yeah, so if you did enjoy this video, please hit like and maybe subscribe if you really liked it. The next video I make won't be till after the trade deadline. It'll be the day of, actually, maybe the day of the trade deadline. And I'm going to be reviewing every single trade that's happened within the week of the trade deadline. So I'm not making individual videos on those trade deadline stuff now, but I plan on doing that in a bit. Like, I plan on doing all the trades in one video and then picking winners and losers and doing all that fun stuff. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. See ya, boy.